Well, during this metanoia, I was thinking about how Hegel and Marx both did for many years metanoias. Hegel went to study the ideas, the history of ideas, and Marx went to study the history of the production of capital. Both had an incomplete vision because Hegel limited himself to the ideals and Marx to the material. And I was thinking their efforts to understand the situation of humanity, la condición humana, it's like the block of marble that was used twice, and then Michelangelo came and he finally completed the David that fought with Goliath and finally could solve the situation of his people. So you are like Michelangelo taking this mega endeavor and finally you also did your metanoia and finally are completing this process. And I think one of the aspects we have to explain now is very important is the situation of what Thompson called the plunder economy, because I was reading the main fear of people is financial bankruptcy and sickness, both of which are healed with RNA drops because RNA drops will be the new currency, and we are really in a global scale crisis in which everything seems to be disappearing.
Drops and our other innovations are answering the fear of financial bankruptcy and disease. So the big question today is people don't know what wealth is anymore. So if wealth is the ability to be financially secure and not be sick, why are people afraid that that's not going to be provided to them? Financial security and health. For many people, the security existence over the last 40 years because the chemical body can't get a grip on the factors caused by the other bodies, can't get an anchor position. So it had this anxiety for 150 years, beginning with Kierkegaard's concept of dread. He came out in 1844. So it had this anxiety going on once the electric environment came here. Now you have the shrinking of these massive electric environments so that people have their own wealth generation through their chip body, Web 2.0. But they can't figure out how to make that become a comfort because you're always engaged in the process of making wealth. Wealth today is the making of information. And more the whole planet, all those with their cell phones and computers are creating the global wealth every day, and it can't be fit back into the normal accounting procedures of who's doing what for who. So here you have an extension of what McLuhan calls software communism, or extreme version of software communism, where everybody is providing one of the three impressions, food consumption, or eyeball consumption, or breathing. Now that gets confused when you bring in the other bodies. So why people don't understand that they're creating wealth constantly, is that wealth is identified with the singular individual and what the individual owns. And you're finding more and more that even the wealthiest people on the planet do not consider the hardware, the resources that one used to pay for hardware communist products is adequate to what one can do today. So you have this simple situation where wealth is the ability to control time. And if you don't have control of time, then you're under stress. And then there's a world where five bodies can't measure what time it is and how much time is being organized. So to the degree that we need external measurement of our wealth, including what time it is and how much you can put into the process, how much you are creating and contributing, as long as you require the old, what we call visual space categorization of wealth along those lines, you're going to have an unbearable situation. So people have to realize that the fact that they exist as an independent person, depending on themselves for survival, to the degree they believe that they are not capable of handling the neo-primitive exchange of wealth, the commons that's based in the chip landscape now. So whenever I have to be forthcoming about what the heck's wrong with the economy, I say that the cultural definitions that people have for themselves are what gets in the way. But ironically, it's the spread of cultural images, largely in the TV body, for tourism, and the global dialogue with those icons, that is what creates wealth. So the very environment that is the wealth is threatening people. The wealth is threatening people. It's not that there's no wealth anymore, there's too much wealth. Too much if you think that you have to be the container and the recipient of it. As a private individual getting credits for the information exchange that everybody's participating. You posted, I think it was you, or maybe it was on Sue Bone's site, the air traffic controller footage of how much traffic is coming into London. I think you saw that, right? The plane, the streaks of coming in. Now there's thousands of planes coming in every day, and the coordinating of the several airports in Britain and having a visualization of it is extraordinary for what it shows you, what people are managing, the incredible wealth of transport via airplane. And there's not that many accidents. It is being well organized by, well modulated by the air traffic controllers. That's just one medium, but it shows you the incredible cooperation that goes on technologically with these landscapes. I mean, an airplane as well, getting you to your destination on time, getting you your return from your destination. That's wealth. So how do you measure that? Who's doing what for that? Just think of all the flight attendants, all the foods, all the airports, all the people on the ground protecting you. You've got millions of people working for you all around the planet and can make sure that the airplanes are on time. Should everybody in that case, just in that industry, be recognized as important and therefore given a really good salary and equally important, so the pilots get as much as the guys on the ground? Now that's been proposed through the decades. That kind of guaranteed income or guaranteed recognition, that would be Marxist communism, where the people share the means of production. But it is so more complicated now because people have cultural identities that are constantly communicating with other cultural identities through the TV landscape, and that creates all kinds of insecurities about what's your crowd, your tribe. So, in essence, I'm saying that the grammarian comes in today. The head of the Federal Reserve has to be a grammarian dealing with the new grammars of the new environments and defining the situation correctly. The economics systems, the Nobel Prize guys in economics are not defining the world situation accurately. So that's the first question. That's how I approach it. It's a matter of the word that makes the market has to be better explained. And of course, if that didn't happen, that would threaten everybody's identity. So, to focus on financial bankruptcy or disease as your main concern is to miss the point. You're being set up to be killed by other forces because you're defining your situation in a very limited chemical body manner. One can easily point out that you are not going to solve your financial bankruptcy from your personal point of view. You're not going to get healthy from your personal point of view because too many stresses going on because everything's being inadequately defined for you. And to the degree you engage in the information environment through newspapers, television, airplanes, automobiles, all these are information systems, you would not be able to find out how well you're doing. So the first thing to realize is that there's no measurement of health anymore. When you are using weight, when you get involved with the idea of sickness, you're engaging health services that are not doing a very good job of defining what health is because they don't include the five bodies. So you make a mistake when you start asking someone else only on chemical body terms about how healthy you are. One could explain that you've been killed 4 times over by these technological environments. All the mental ideas that you think you have for surviving in your chemical body don't apply anymore. So this is the first task for health today is to understand and overlay a correct definition of the factors keeping you healthy. If you didn't have your phone working, your iPhone, you didn't have your data coming in, and your computer being broken, that'll create more stress than if someone told you you got cancer. Now, that should create more distress in you than being told you have cancer. But people think that their chemical body is the key. And so being told they have cancer is a trick in reference to what you're doing and what you're involved in. So even the health solutions are not what people think they are. Now what I'm describing has been the case for the last 30 years. We say here at INDM that we can solve these issues without you understanding the definitions of why you are healthy. Well, you're already healthy. If you understand the 5 bodies and their interplay, the ecology of the 5 bodies. So, that's great. You have to find out about our stuff and start using it. But meanwhile, once you get healthy or feel healthy with our products, then you're going to require a redefinition of what it means. A lot of the confusion in INDM is that people don't know how to explain what it means to feel alienated once you're feeling really good. Why are you not excited about your friends anymore? Why are you upset with stupidity, more apparent stupidity around you when you get on the RNA drops or even engage with ion? Well, it's because your definitions of what you are and what wealth is, what the economy is, are not adequate. So that's what we're doing with these recordings. We are updating the language of the economy, which originally meant your household. You gotta get your house in order, but your house is made up of 5 environments. It's not the house you used to live in. And the accountants keep insisting that you can't function in society unless you come up with some credits to your financial situation means you've got to. You know, the anarchists say, why don't we just take over the institutions? Why don't people just somehow some ESP and take over the banks, take over the industries? Well, if they did, they'd have to continue taking over the information process and have to allow that to happen. So the only revolution can be where you pronounce that everybody's debts are canceled and that nobody has to pay for anything anymore. But you do have to become very energized and keep working at the job you're doing. Or figure out arrangements where you can leave that job and do another job. But the population should be freed up from this solution to have endless energy and to be happy to go anywhere and contribute anywhere in a state of anarchy almost. And if you fear that people will slack off and not do anything, they'll get bored with that. And there's millions of other people who will be energized and they'll take over the jobs that need to be done for a while, the roles that need to be done. So you allow the slackers to slack off, you let the hyperactive people do what they're doing, and they'll gradually drop those roles. They won't stay in that position of being a slacker or being a hyperactive contributor. They'll allow themselves to adopt the other roles, returning to slacking off. And there's always going to be replacements. So nowadays you got everybody doing what they're doing. The dropouts, the drop-ins, the people on welfare, the people running huge new technological labs. And they're told, well, you have to keep doing this because we will fire you and you won't be able to pay your rent. So the money thing has become an incredible illusion. The money is visual space. The idea of what wealth is, that just has to be altered. And the resistance to that solution will be incredible, because then you get people's identities, and people have eating out of their struggles and their pain, but they think they have to sacrifice. So my solution would probably involve an incredible warfare, gang warfare. There would be total destruction, like there has already happened. As Ian says, if you have this change in the definition of what's going on, everything would continue the way it is happening now. But more people would be smarter in understanding how to respond to information requirements. So I rest my opening statement. Debate with the universe. The opposition has been very polite, allowing me to speak for 10 minutes. And I don't expect much understanding has happened yet, but this debate doesn't have any finish line. No finish line here. Or what I'm owed for this 10 minutes, or what I owe you for recording. It's still up in the air what the royalty checks will be. All right. So.
Yes. Well, I found very interesting what you said about the way to overcome this alienation. The state we are since the fall, that we alienated ourselves from our perfect being, and we've been trying to find a solution. I was surprised to find out that oikos is Greek for home, for household, and that's the root for the word oikonomike, economy. And the economy that we're studying is not only the satisfaction of our material needs, like Marx did, or the satisfaction or for intellectual needs, like Hegel did. Where, as you said, this health or this economy is the economy in all your houses, which house 6 bodies, and That's the only way we can complete and heal, because many people have these fears now, and they have this what's the process to heal the crises that are going on because of these situations. For example, in the economy, they all have fear. The therapy is to talk about as a mean of healing, to talk about their fears and get medication. But we know that will never be the real cure. We've been learning that
magnesium, yes. So if you listen to the news, you're told that there's a huge crisis with the euro, and you're supposed to take a position in relation to that. Now, for the Greeks or Mexico or Spain that are starving and struggling, they are cooperating among themselves, among the neighborhoods. They're forming their forms of survival. We're going to see more and more of that. You're going to see people being forced to actually interact with their neighbors, with the people in their communities. But when I think of that pensioner I saw a couple weeks ago, he went to 4 banks, he couldn't get the money out for his wife, and he just collapsed on the sidewalk. This was in some place in Berlin, and he just was sitting up, was in Greece, and he was just sitting there totally devastated, because his idea that he was dependent on himself, and the bank wasn't going to give him any money for his family, that they were going to die. And of course he was quite despondent. But all he had to do was walk around, get up and start walking around and look at other people despondent, and actually walk up to the person and say, well, okay, we're both going to be dead in a couple of days. Why don't we just sort of go around and look for banana trees or apple trees and start munching them. And then we'll get some other people start munching them. The death squads won't notice us, they won't kill us if we band together. So, and I say a lot of this has already been going on in many ways. You have these young people in Greece are creating alternative tourist mechanisms, and they're doing it by hanging out with other people. So, the more and more you hear about this dire strait coming from the external media, the outer kingdom, more and more you've got to not participate in that. But the problem is, a lot of people are in the information, news, broadcasting world. They have some role in it, and they get paid. So, how much are the information environments, the chip body, going to keep taxing people's energies as people realize they can't rely on that stuff? Maybe they could rely on their own networks and using their cell phones to organize their own energies. But more and more we'll find that people have turned off and are not taking the media seriously. We have a whole generation of students over the last 10 years now looking at Jon Stewart's humor as a source of being informed. So many levels of society are not taking information seriously, even though they require information for stimulation in their sensory lives. So we are going to have to do what I'm talking about, exploitation. You're going to have to be hypocritical in many ways. You're going to keep doing your job if you have one in the information situation. You're going to have to keep your Facebook page going while you walk around with your starving chemical body looking for buddies to actually help you steal a bite so you go get some oranges and hope that the person whose bike you stole doesn't have any clout. So with the amount of crime going on all over the place, so this state of anarchy is already happening. So part of defining what's going on is that no more wealth will be created in accounting terms, in visual space terms. That's why Heinz says there's no money. There can't be measurement in terms of money anymore. There's none of that kind of a judgment of what your situation is. So, is it interesting? noticing that the individualist Westerner sits around being paranoid, saying, well, I'm not going to knock on my neighbor's apartment door and see if he'll join in with me to gather up some food for the next couple of days because I don't have any money. He doesn't have any money. So the very wealth that the Westerner technology created and the use of money is going to be a huge handicap because of the individualism that Western situation propped up for 100, 200 years. Because they don't starve over China. They don't starve in the third world. They're already, from Western point, starving when they function and with their food-making situations. Like those people in Mexico, the very poor people that are making sure they have rifles and are protecting themselves and do not expect anything from the government, consider the government is the enemy. You may know more about it than me, but they are eating and surviving, not going to ritzy restaurants like they do in Manhattan or Los Angeles, but they are surviving on the level that they always did. So when you get William Robert Thompson's 5 phases of evolution, cultural evolution, from 30,000 years ago, and then 8,000 years ago, I think it's raining out. Okay. When you get Thompson's 30,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 500 years ago, and today, these different phases he works out. We have to understand that we've retrieved every one of those phases today, and that culturally you are in a timeless situation because if you use it for external traditional marking points, you've got everything that ever happened before in culture happening now. 4 different levels of hardship, incredible radical means of survival. So then again, there I'm saying the images of what time it is and where you are and how wealthy you are not going to be solid. You get a lot of people in the United States living in houses that don't pay rent anymore. They've gone into a post-visual space, post-accounting situation. Now, the other problem is, as people realize the anarchy is going on, and that nobody's paying attention, that inspires certain kinds of entities to become more aggressive. Like the cops, killing one black guy in a little town. It's like they're not sure how to dispense their wealth. They have this huge armament magazine of weaponry that they can apply in any city immediately, and they can't find anybody to use it against. So they have to create a certain situation of overkill. So the philosopher, the mystic, the seeker, the artist, the farmer, the banker, industrialist, the assembly line worker, the dropout, the wandering gypsy are all in the same boat. And they better stop observing things as if they have a definition of what's happening. I used to be asked what to tell executives as people got more and more worried about terrorism. 30 years ago, I do some consulting on that, and I would tell the top, best paid executives that you can expect in the next couple of years that you will be in a dire situation in some format. That's what you can expect. Your position, your status is not going to protect you. And of course, those guys are dead now. They didn't make it. They didn't heed my words. They assumed that they were secure. They thought that their wealth status would be constant. So they made the mistake of looking at their situation and deciding what they could see was the definition of what they were. We live in situations where you can't see what's coming. So don't rely on your eyes. And same goes for the blind who we're offering here. Plus, if you're lucky, you'll find out about our products, which makes everything a lot easier in many ways. So how's that?
So very good, because I think...
Keep talking, I'm just going to move here and check what's going on in the weather. Keep going.
It is important to understand these aspects, to see there is a solution. There is no need to be in total despair.